Let's talk about a name you definitely know, Alexander the Great. He built one of the biggest empires the ancient world had ever seen, all before he turned 33. But the craziest thing about him isn't how much land he conquered. No, it's this one fact that has had historians scratching their heads for centuries.
Yeah, you heard that right. Not one. In his entire incredible military career leading armies across continents, Alexander was completely, totally undefeated. So how on earth did he pull that off? What was his secret? Well, let's get into it.
And to really get a sense of just how insane his achievements were, think about this number, 25. By the time he was just 25 years old, Alexander had already crushed the mighty Persian Empire. He wasn't just a king anymore, they were calling him the master of Asia. So to figure out how he became this unstoppable force, we gotta look at the man himself. Because this record, well, it wasn't an accident. It was built in his mind long before he ever set foot on a battlefield. Right from the get-go, there was this aura around him. A big part of that came from his own mom, Olympias, who basically spread the story that he wasn't just some king's son, but the actual son of Zeus. And you better believe that reputation became a seriously powerful tool for him. But his dad, King Philip II, was no fool. He knew that a son of a god reputation would only get you so far. So he made a genius move. He hired the single greatest thinker in all of Greece. Yep, the philosopher Aristotle, to be Alexander's personal tutor. And that changed everything. Aristotle didn't just teach him books. He taught him patience, diplomacy, how to think outside the box. These were the skills that would end up being way more powerful than any weapon. So by the time he saw his first real fight at 18, a totally new kind of leader had arrived.
Okay, so with that incredible education under his belt, Alexander was ready to do what he was born for, military conquest. And this is where the legend really takes off. Time and time again, he went up against armies that were way, way bigger than his, and every single time, he came out on top. So let's look at his absolute masterpiece.
This was it, the final winner-take-all showdown against the Persian king, Darius III. The entire Persian Empire's might was gathered on one field. I mean, the stakes couldn't have been higher. If he wins this, he basically wins the world. If he loses, it's all over. Just look at these numbers. It's a total mismatch. Alexander is outnumbered more than 2-1. The Persian king, Darius, was so sure he was going to win, he basically told his guys, hey, just stand there, they'll come to us and we'll crush them. Big mistake. So what do you do when you're massively outnumbered? Well, if you're Alexander, you turn it into your greatest weapon. Here's how he did it, and it's pure genius. First, he pretended to retreat, making the Persians think he was running. They got cocky and charged forward. Second, as the Persian army stretched out to chase him, a huge gap opened right in their line. That was exactly what he was waiting for. Third, he slammed his best cavalry right through that hole, getting behind their entire army. And finally, with the Persians totally confused and being attacked from the back, he led a charge straight at the center, aiming right for Darius himself. The king panicked and fled. His army completely fell apart. And just like that, the Persian Empire was his. Okay, so winning on the battlefield is one thing, but holding on to a massive empire, that's a whole different ballgame. And this brings us to the third and maybe the most underrated piece of the puzzle for Alexander's success. It wasn't just about winning wars, it was about winning over the people. And this goes right back to what his teacher, the great Aristotle, taught him. See, Alexander never forgot that lesson. He knew you couldn't rule by fear alone. True loyalty, that had to be earned. And the way he did it was just so smart. Instead of kicking out the old bosses, he kept the good Persian governors around. He didn't force everyone to be Greek. Instead, he actually adopted some of their customs and respected their festivals. And get this, in a brilliant political move, he married the daughter of Darius, the very king he'd just beaten. Then he took all the money he captured from the Persian treasury and gave it back to the people. He wasn't just a conqueror, he was building a new loyal empire from the inside out. So he conquered pretty much the entire known world. But there was one enemy he couldn't defeat. And his death, at only 32, is just as legendary and mysterious as his life was. The story goes that he got back to Babylon, came down with a sudden fever, and 10 days later, he was gone. For centuries, everyone's wondered, was it poison, malaria, something else entirely? Well, some modern researchers have a theory that is, honestly, pretty creepy.
So here's the weirdest part. Ancient accounts say his body didn't show any signs of decay for 6 whole days. Now, a modern theory offers a pretty chilling explanation for that. What if he wasn't actually dead? The idea is he might have had a stroke that left him completely paralyzed. His breathing would have gotten so faint and shallow that it was impossible to detect. And back then, doctors checked if you were breathing. They didn't check for a pulse. So it's entirely possible that the world's greatest conqueror was declared dead while he was still alive.
So even though his life was cut incredibly short, his impact on the world is just massive. His conquests literally started a new era, the Hellenistic Age, which spread Greek ideas across the globe for the next 300 years. He founded more than 20 new cities, he created new trade routes connecting Europe and Asia for the very first time, and his strategies on the battlefield were so revolutionary that they're still being taught at military colleges today.
Which kind of leaves us with this one big question, right? We know Alexander was undefeated on the battlefield, but maybe, just maybe, his real victory wasn't over Darius and the Persian army. Maybe his real victory was over history itself, creating a legacy so powerful that we're still talking about him thousands of years later and still calling him Alexander the Great. Thanks for listening.